I like the Lux emote. I've changed my mind on this emote, actually. I've been using it wrong. It's not trying to be BM like Brown emote. You're supposed to use it when the opponent is doing something, like, kind of like... I think it's kind of... It's like the anti-meta slave emote, I think. It's like when they play, like, double Grizzled Ranger, you Lux emote. When they like, blow you out with, like, the perfect curve on an elusive deck, you Lux emote. It's like... It's when the opponent's a meta slave. I think that's the best time to use Lux emote, and I think I've actually just been thinking about the Lux emote wrong, and that's why I undervalued it a little bit at first, actually. Emote guide incoming. Well, I think it's a really big deal, because I looked at Lux emote, it's kind of hard to fit it in. So, when you're considering emote, it's like deck building, right? There's a deck building slot, which you have to always think, what's your weakest card? What's like the bottom of your card value in deck, and what's the top of your opportunity cost? Which is to say, what's the weakest card that's in your deck, and what's the strongest card that's not in your deck? And then you compare those cards, right? So it's like, you look at these emotes, I think easily the strongest emote that's not here is Darius. I want to fit in Darius. So we have to decide, what's the weakest emote here? And I think it's Fiora. Which leaves us, there's no greeting emote, but I think that the idea of committing an entire slot to a greeting emote is fundamentally too limited. And I think that you can use Lux to double as a greeting emote. I think that dedicating an emote only for greeting is just a misplay. I think it has to be, actually. Because you can always go flexible with your greeting. You can always go flexible with your greeting. Because Fiora, I think, is meant to be a greeting emote. And that's kind of what I've been using her as. I think I'll replace her with Darius. So our lineup will be Darius, Lux, Heimerdinger, Quinn, Vlad, Poro. And I think that's the best lineup we can do. I think so. I might possibly be missing one. I've been using Vlad for greeting. Yeah, Vlad for greeting works fine. But basically, the idea of a committal greeting emote is always wrong. And that's that. I was thinking about emotes wrong. I really was. Do you think emotes are currently pay to win? They're a little pay to win, but I think they're cheap enough overall. But you can't get emotes without paying, right? There's no way to get cheddar coin without putting money in. Whereas you can get cards over time. That seems a little awkward. But, I mean, I guess there's no other way to do it. Yeah, I guess emotes are kind of pay to win. Okay, so this is good. It gives us an opportunity to change our emotes. The emote meta as it stands. I don't like Swain. I know a lot of people like Swain. I don't like Swain. I know a lot of people like Thresh, and I don't like Thresh either. Or, sorry, Tryndamere. These three are just like, they kind of don't resonate with me. I feel like Swain, between Heimer and between Quinn, I think that Swain... What's a situation where Swain is better than either Heimer or Quinn? And I think there's none. Swain is too sarcastic. Exactly. I like Swain for one day, but I hate it now. I think Swain is a bait. Emote. Thresh is S tier. I've heard a couple people really like Thresh. Okay, so explain Thresh to me. Is it just like when you're about to win, it's like, you're like, eat shit kind of thing? I get the eat shit sentiment. I will say... There is room in the emote meta for an eat shit kind of sentiment, but I think that I don't like committing an entire emote to it. I think that, like, the eat shit idea is, first of all, slightly BM. I don't mind it if the emote is just right. I think that Thresh is the best encapsulation of the eat shit idea, but I don't think it's a good representation of that, really. I mean, first of all, it's just kind of rude. So I think, I mean, it really does have to be the Darius like this. I think this is my roster. And the order is important because I have like the muscle memory for these. So there's Darius for facepalm. From the starter kit, Vlad is replacing Shen. You do it as a GG, but it's versatile. That's important. You can use it for greeting. You can use it as an eat shit emote if you want to. Vlad is very versatile. Versatility is very, very important, right? And that's part of the reason we cut Braum. Lux is alright. I thought Lux was low tier at first, but I found a use for her. Like I said, she is really good, like, as the kind of just, like, complain about meta slave. It's like, so there's two complaint emote categories that function as complaints. There is and complaint emotes are important because they're good at venting. So any day now is complaining about roping. And I think, and personally, I wouldn't run that because I don't hate roping, but I think the Lux emote is perfect for complaining about like a meta slave or curve draw or like kind of like nut draw, like two of the between, right? I think it's the best emote at doing that. Is there another emote that works better than Lux for that? I used to think Lux was an eat shit emote. That's the problem with where I went wrong with Lux, why I underrated her as an emote, which is like, I thought she was just like a rude, like, replacement to Braum or something, and it's not. It's not. Vlad, I don't like Vlad as much for that, actually. Like, Vlad, I think, is pretty versatile, and it can function as like a kind of like complain about Metaslave emote, but it's actually not as good as Lux, in my opinion. I think it really, really isn't. So, yeah, this is my lineup that I like. Isn't Misfortune emote garbage? Yeah, I don't really like it. I agree. I wouldn't really use it. Jinx? Oh, yeah. Jinx, to be perfectly honest, I think Jinx might be my 7th emote. I think now that the top of my opportunity cost is Jinx, but I don't think it's worth fitting in. I think I'm very happy with the 6 that I have. The one problem here's the one problem with my lineup, which is you could argue that Quinn and Heimerdinger are very, very, very overlapping. You're using 2 slots for thinking emotes? Exactly. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So the question is this a true assertion? Are there good subtle distinctions between these, or should I maybe remove one? I think there are subtle distinctions between these. I think there are. I think they do have an overlap, but I think they're slightly different. That being said, I don't know how to characterize that difference. Do you guys have any ideas? How do you characterize that difference? Like, what situations, they are a little different. When the opponent does... Heimer, okay, the Heimer emote is kind of like a flamey emote. Quinn is more toxic than Heimer. I actually disagree with that. I think Heimer is best when the opponent does something really dumb. Like when the opponent... Like, the Heimer is the counter to Darius, basically. Like, when the opponent does something bad, they Darius, you Heimer. And I think that is better in that position than Quinning there. I think so. Heimer's when you read the opponent's play. No, you never self-Heimer. That's a rookie mistake. You never, ever, ever self-Heimer. It's just like, just masturbatory. You don't emote yourself positively. You never, ever, ever do that. But I think Quinn and Heimer are actually a little different. Quinn is more for a questionable play by the enemy. Really? Replace Heimer. Heimer could be rope protection too. It is true. Heimer does work a bit as rope protection. Gangplank is better for that, but Heimer has more versatility. Heimer is for big brain play and Quinn is for low brain play. That's true, but you could use Heimer sarcastically for low brain play. I think that they are different enough that I do want both of them. I think that overall, I'd rather have 2 fairly overlapping but both powerful emotes than I would have something like Jinx, which is unique and niche but kind of weak, right? Like, I'd rather accept some high-level redundancy rather than, like, low-level distinction, right? It's, you think you are so smart versus I don't even see what you're trying to do. Exactly. And there's many ways to break down that distinction. We all have different ideas of how that exists. But I think this has to be the lineup. These 6 have to be right. Jinx is trash in this meta. I think Jinx is kind of unique, but I don't love it. Yeah. I don't think there's anything I want apart from these 6 yet. But when they add new emotes, I do agree that either Heimer or Quinn is probably going to be the first to go here. Actually, it could be Lux. It's not impossible, depending on what they add. But Darius and Poro are really hard to cut. They're really, really hard to cut right now. So I think they just have to stay in. I think there's kind of no way around that. Yasuo is the best emote. Swain is the best emote. The problem with those emotes, they lack a certain specific kind of versatility. And that kind of versatility is like the ironic versatility. It's really hard to use those emotes ironically.